Hey there. So I wanted to just talk real quick about why the jury of the Karen Reed trial is struggling. It kind of occurred to me after watching many of the videos of people thinking that they're going to have Swift not guilty and why are they not back yet, that they have no idea what the judge excluded to allow the jury to review as evidence. So many people have watched the entire trial, so they're very well aware of all the evidence that was discussed, things that was presented by the defense, things that was presented by the state. Some FBI experts even testified. But that doesn't mean just because it was presented in the case that it's going to be going to the jury. And so this is something that I called weeks ago that the judge is going to do, because people are like, oh, there'll be so much reasonable doubt. There's so much evidence that there's not going to be any problem. And I said then, I said, they will block things from the jury to be allowed to review as evidence. And that is exactly what they did. Now, NBC 10 Boston, after they closed and rested and things were supposed to go to the deliberations, they shut down. They didn't cover the hearing of where they were arguing about instructions. The very specific instructions, and I'm not talking about the verdict form, I'm talking about the very specific instructions given to the jury on exactly what they can and cannot review as evidence, was very, very harmful to the defense. What they did, so you have, if you've watched the trial, you have the Google searches, you have Lally, who presented through half of the trial, was just pretty much in defense of those who are accused of actually having killed him. The Google search, the amount of taxpayers' money that they spent to defend that woman, to claim that she didn't make those searches at 227, the communications between Brian Higgins and Karen Reed that showed that there was like a romantic thing and that they had a kiss in front of John O'Keefe's camera. He saw, John O'Keefe witnessed this man named Brian Higgins kissing on his woman at his house in front of his camera. While they're at the bar, Brian Higgins is texting. They're texting. He texted Karen Reed and said, well, and then she pretty much ghosted him in his face, would not respond to him, did not respond to him, because she's going to prove to her man that that kiss didn't mean nothing, even minimized the kiss, comparing it to kissing on Karen, some gay guy. Like, he don't mean nothing, ghosts him in his face. And then after that, Brian Higgins texted John O'Keefe if he's coming to the party. Then you have all of the communications, the deleted calls, the text messages that were deleted, all these communications and these calls. Then you have the Proctor text messages between other people about gift promises, that you have Proctor belittling her, demeaning her. All of this is types of evidence that shows bias, conspiracy, this Proctor knowing these people and interacting with them. All of these communications were excluded of what the jury is going to be allowed to review. Because in her instruction to the jury, she specifically said the only electronic communications that you can consider are between Karen and John O'Keefe. Meanwhile, in closing argument, you have Adam Lally belittling their idea of a conspiracy, claiming there's a cover-up, saying it's ridiculous. There's no evidence whatsoever, because he knows that the judge, all those text messages and butt dials on facial recognition secure phones and calls that were listed as answered that was their claim that they didn't have those calls, the communications between each other, those horrible, horrible text messages from Proctor between his cop buddies and the promises and the gifts, all those communications were excluded. While Lally said that their whole idea of cover-up is ridiculous. So these juries hear Lally saying they're a liar, there's no evidence of any kind of cover-up, and they don't have any of that. None of that is before the jury because the judge said the only thing they're going to be allowed to review communications-wise, electronic communications-wise, is phone calls between John and Karen, period. The only text messages, the only phone calls is her ranting and raving at him. So all of that, which clearly showed very suspicious behaviors, is excluded. This horrible behavior by Trooper Proctor, talking about her, hoping that she dies, and it doesn't matter that they heard it, that they may remember that. They're instructed. They cannot consider any of that. And so the only question they've came back now in 2 days of deliberations is about the CERT report of the search, of which, of course, is not in the evidence. We don't have any idea what's actually in the evidence. Like, did they actually get to review the evidence to see what they're actually given? Because we should trust them. So this is why. And this is why it's so important for people to understand this, because they need to be outraged. They need to be outraged. They have no idea. They think there's something wrong with the jury. Like, why aren't they back yet with a complete not guilty on all counts? You have multiple expert witnesses saying that it's not possible. It's not possible that that car struck that man and caused those injuries. It's not consistent, right? So hopefully and prayerfully they'll at least have that, if they're even given that. Like, we don't know. At this point, how should we trust what they actually gave them to review when she has completely excluded all of the evidence? Like, she has excluded. And sadly, I recognize what I dub cornbread mafia. I recognized it and I called it. And everything I said that this judge is going to do, she has done. If you go back and look at my videos, she's going to block evidence going to them. The jurors who had the most reactions of disgust towards Trooper Proctor and Jennifer McCabe, and they're gone. This judge, she impounded animal control records. She impounded them. So the public is not even allowed to know if there's a safety issue with an animal. The reason she impounded and took control of those records is because the family of Karen Reed, hired an independent investigator who found victims of that dog having been attacked. There's hospital records. That dog sent other people to the hospital. So you have suborning of perjury. Suborning of perjury is when somebody knows somebody's lying and they lead them to lie. Lally, under Bar Association ethics, has a duty that as soon as he found out, when the Alberts is saying that dog has never bit anyone, when he sees those hospital records of those accusations, he cannot allow them to testify that there was never any accusations that dog bit anyone. He can't allow it because he has the evidence. So instead of not allowing them to testify such and making it known that what they have said, here's the evidence that they lied, he took that evidence, seized those records, and then criminally suborned perjury and led them to perjury. And then took the evidence, okay, and the judge aided and abetted such criminal behavior by impounding those records so that he could do that. Then Lally, in closing arguments, lied to the jury and said there's no evidence of a cover-up because he knew that the judge was excluding all the phone calls between Proctor and those other people, bad-mouthing Karen, promising gifts to him. He knew that the judge was going to exclude to the jury the how long to die in the snow, all the phone calls between the Alberts and each other, the text messages between Higgins and Karen Reed, and then the text message between Higgins and John luring him to that party. All of that is excluded. And worse yet, what Lally did in the closing that sadly nobody objected to. You remember when Trooper Guarini said it's not possible that she was there at 12:45 a.m. as the others testified because she auto-connected to John O'Keefe's Wi-Fi at 12:36 a.m. If something's not presented in a trial, you cannot present it in closing. In the closing argument, for the first time ever, Lally said to the jury she was connected to the Wi-Fi all night long. She was connected to John's Wi-Fi all night long. It's such a bizarre statement to even make. How could she even be connected to his Wi-Fi all night long? Like she never disconnected. Like her phone never disconnected from his Wi-Fi. And so this trooper, Paul, gave a very specific time and cause of death at 12:45 based on EDR of a car. The collision happened at 12:45, and that collision caused his death. So in order for them to find her guilty, they have to accept the time and manner of death. And Trooper Guarini contradicted Trooper Paul by saying, no, it's not possible. She was there at 12:45. So Jackson didn't in his closing say, listen, you have to find her not guilty, because if you cannot accept the time and manner of death, they didn't give any other alternate. They didn't say, well, we think this is the time that she died. They said, matter of factly, due to scientific, irrefutable evidence of car EDR, this is when she died, and this is when he died, and this is how he died. So he should have said, well, this is what has to be found. If there's any evidence to prove that he didn't die at 12:45 and the collision didn't cause it, you have to find her not guilty. And as a matter of fact, the state's own witness, Trooper Guarini, said, yeah, no, it's not possible for her to have been there at 12:45 because she auto-connected to John's Wi-Fi at 12:36. And so anyways, the jury has been out for a full day and then half a day, and the only question that they presented is can they see the search report for the search that they did of that residence. And what people don't understand, and I desperately want people to know, especially people who's out there waiting and thinking, they took their vacation days, they spent much money on airplane tickets, they have flown from all over the country, they have flown from other countries to be out there for that verdict moment. They're there. They're an increasing amount of people. They've been watching the trial, okay, and they're out there taking their vacation days because they thought they was going to have a quick verdict. They had no idea what has been excluded from that jury. And I don't think that's right. I'm begging you, please share this. Make other people know. Did you know what this judge excluded for the jury to reveal? They are not allowed to consider Proctor's text messages to other people, any of the text messages of this whole promising gifts. They didn't allow the text message of Brian Higgins saying, well, shows motive. It shows motive. of his why he would have had a confrontation with John O'Keefe, and the possibility that she may have told him about that text message on the way to the party. Yeah, he texted me, babe, but I didn't text him back. What do you mean he texted you? They're not allowed to review the text messages from Brian Higgins to her or Brian Higgins to him. They're not allowed to review any of the missing calls or even the Google search. The only electronic communications they're allowed to review is between Karen and John. And a lot of that was just the negative stuff of stop calling me, the arguments, the voicemails. That's it. And sadly, I called this. I said, this is why they're testifying in such perjurious ways, because they've been told ahead of time. Don't worry about it. The jury won't see the light of day. Don't worry about it. You won't be prosecuted for perjury. They suborned perjury. Okay. And meanwhile, people are out there completely oblivious. And it's just, and then there's another thing. NBC 10 Boston, and I did a video earlier while I'm in the chat and I'm trying to let people know that are like wondering. I let them know about the 71 count federal charges against Massachusetts state troopers, 6 defendants, former and current state troopers. And in that case of these people who falsified records, extortion, bribery, conspiracy, all those charges included in that case, and in that document, I put a link, was the following. People, troopers and police, both, police all across the state of Massachusetts, were getting benefits from Massachusetts state troopers, giving gifts, bribes. They were on the receiving end to make sure that they get the license that they were seeking from that CDL issuing unit. Firefighters, police, state troopers, take care of my troopers. You go and you look at the text messages. They're very similar to types of text messages in this case. Oh, I'm gonna give you a gift when this is all over with. In those text messages, they said they were gonna, but it was more clearly, give them the golden treatment. Give them the golden treatment. Don't worry, I'm gonna give you such and such. Give my trooper friend the golden treatment. Give lieutenant, and then he redacted the name of that police officer the golden treatment. Give my daughter, who's a son, who's a good police officer, the golden treatment. All these people, and it was, it wasn't just police officers and troopers and firefighters. It was various people, but they were getting the connection through troopers. Take care of my trooper friend. Take care of my fellow trooper friend. And we don't know if any of those troopers and police officers were testifying in this case. So what's needed here is the following. Very strategic legal actions need to be done and unified and organized by people standing up and demanding change. And here's what it is. 1, they need to file a formal complaint against this judge at the Massachusetts Judicial Removal Commission stating the following. This judge did knowingly and aiding and abetting Adam Lowley to suborn perjury by the McCabe's, Jennifer, or the Alberts, who owned that dog Chloe, did, knowing that there were hospital records of previous animal bites, did so that the Alberts can testify that there was never any accusations of a dog bite, did impound the animal control records, and did suborn perjury, aided Adam Lowley to suborn perjury of the Alberts to say there was never any incidents. This goes to the heart of integrity and the canons of which judges must obey. And then 2, Adam Lowley to file a former Bar Association complaint against him that he did collude and suborn perjury to the Alberts to testify that there's never any incidents of dog bites when he had possession, not only had possession of animal control records and hospital records, because under the ethics and rules that attorneys must comply with when they're made aware of a person who is speaking deceptively, they must make that evidence aware to the other party. So not only did he not make that evidence aware that this party has lied under oath and said that there was never any even accusations of dog bites, not only did he not follow that rule, he criminally suborned perjury by leading them to testify that there was never any accusations of dog bites by that dog. And then he impounded those animal control records and blocked others from getting access so they could not know and use it to file complaint. Those are unethical behaviors and criminal behaviors. Take that strategic step to unify petitions to the Bar Association on that act itself. And then 3, to go to the following: Attorney General, the Governor, the Department of Justice, hundreds of thousands of people, or at least thousands of people, sign a petition of the following: that the Alberts did lie on the stand and claim that there was no dog bites, that Proctor egregiously made horrible comments about somebody that he was investigating, and the judge blocked the jury from even being allowed to review that, while the DA lied to the jury and stated there was no evidence, because that was evidence that the judge blocked from going to the jury. And to say that he willfully and knowingly put perjured testimony on the stand, and that these expert witnesses that came from the FBI said it's not possible that this caused this injury, and that they have hidden documents from the grand jury indictment, refusing to give the Boston Globe the whole record of what they did in the grand jury proceeding to get that indictment, to block this jury from reviewing the text messages from Brian Higgins, where a cop has said he saw Brian Higgins at her car after he testified that he was never at her car. To give the name of that officer to the authorities and say that this is an absolute harm to the public, that they have protected killers, and then blocked the jury from seeing evidence of a cover-up. And also, there needs to be laws made that when a media biasly attacks a defendant with deceptive reporting by omitting many things that leads a misleading story and harms the case and the defendant to the entire public, tainting the entire jury pool of the county, that has to be a law to prevent that, such as what this local media has done. They have hidden the 71 count federal charges against Massachusetts state troopers filed in January of 2024, that they took bribes, that they committed conspiracy and bribery and extortion and falsifying of records, and that police officers that are unnamed by the feds across the state of Massachusetts and fellow troopers were giving bribes to state troopers to get those licenses on false pretenses. And some of those state troopers and police officers could very well have testified in this case. And not only that, but they remain in power. Because they have redacted them, they chose not to charge these people, but just use them as witnesses in the 71 count case. Those officers are still in power, who have committed criminal acts of conspiring to receive false benefits by giving bribes to state troopers, Officers from across the state of Massachusetts are involved in that Golden Treatment Gate scandal. They literally laugh in the text messages saying they want the golden treatment. Give my trooper friend the golden treatment. Give my police officer the golden treatment. Give my buddy this, this fellow trooper this golden treatment. We have to have laws that mandate prosecution, because the feds are the ones that's cherry picking when officers are held accountable. We have to have mandatory prosecution laws. They don't get discretion. If they're falsifying and committing crimes, they have to be removed. Period. We have to demand that. We have to demand that. So people, this is the time. The time is now when all these people are out there. This is what they need to demand. And I am begging you, please let people know what this judge has done in this case. She has blocked the evidence going to the jury. And all these people out there spending their vacation money, buying airplane tickets, flying from all over the country and from other countries, they have no idea that all those text messages between Proctor and those family members, from Higgins to John to Higgins to Karen, the Google searches, all those missing and deleted calls, none of that was allowed to be reviewed as evidence by the jury, while Lowry's claiming there's no evidence of no cover-up. That's a bunch of rubbish, because he knew that all that evidence the judge blocked. She told that jury the only digital electronic device evidence that they're going to be allowed to review as evidence is the communications between John and Karen, which were the only ones presented were very negative. The arguments, the ranting voicemails. So the Google search, how long to die in snow? Nope, they don't get to review that. The Proctor talking smack about her, the nudes, the wishing she died, and talking about her medical situation, which is HIPAA violations. Higgins luring John to the party after he flirts with his girlfriend in his face. The text messages between him to prove there's a motive, there was a romantic thing going on. All of that excluded. And people wonder, why aren't they back with the not guilty yet? I'm sad that I'm correct when I called this weeks ago that this was what she was going to do. You can see that in my earlier videos. I'm also frustrated that these lawyers didn't know that this was what she was going to do. And because they didn't know, they cut off witnesses. Yannetti told the media the other day, before he presented his last 3 witnesses, that he wasn't going to present the guy who saw Higgins at Karen Reed's car, because he felt like they won already. You don't cut off witnesses that helps the defendant because you feel like you won already. I mean, they don't have to present anything, but there's a cop who saw Higgins at her car for a long period of time, and that's when those 42 minutes of footage was missing. And there's other witnesses who were attacked by those dogs. That dog, Chloe, attacked other people and sent them to the hospital. People, I'm so thankful to see people out there saying no to injustice, but all that can go away. But there needs to be more than that. There needs to be specific strategic legal actions taken to produce real change, and that is to petition, to demand laws be changed, and that is mandatory prosecution. That is to go to the governor, who the governor said Proctor's actions were disgusting, but they need to petition to the governor that this judge has excluded this evidence to this jury and hid the animal control records and colluded in suborned perjury for Lowry to put the Alberts on the stand to say that there was never any accusations that dog bit anybody. That is a criminal act of suborning and perjury. It's a literal charge of a crime. He knew that dog had bitten other people and that there was at the very least accusations that it had. He knew that there's hospital records and reports. He knew that, and he still put them on the stand to say no, there isn't, and then took that evidence and then impounded it so that the public can't get it. Those are criminal acts. Literally, it's like, a lot of times in cases it's like, okay, well, each side gets to present their story, but you don't get to commit criminal acts of suborning perjury in that process. And people have to fight for that. So I know people in general, they want change. They're out there and they're saying, we want change. But they have to know how to get that change. They have to know how to specifically make that change happen. And that is to take specific steps. Go to the governor, petition. Go while they're all out there. There should be people signing petitions. Oh my gosh, you have all those people out there. There's somebody's got a book going by. They're signing it. All the guests that came out and flew out for Karen Reed after this over. No, they need to have petitions of to the governor saying this judge has blocked specific evidence from this jury to hear, and that is Trooper Proctor's horrible things that he said about her. It shows a biasness, and it shows that he was friends and connected with them, and it was that jury that needs to review that. The specific evidence that there were animal control records, this lawyer knows, the family knows who those people are that was bitten, the animal control, the hospital records, to take this evidence to the governor and to the attorney general and demand that this Adam Lally doesn't get to get by with suborning perjury and putting them on the stand to say that dog never bit anybody when he has hospital records of people sent to the hospital, and impounding the animal control records. Specifically signed petitions, very specifically signed petitions to the attorney general, to the governor, to the Department of Justice. Anyways, because other than that, unless they don't fight for new laws, it just will continue. But I just want people to understand, as I think a lot of people, they're just, they don't get it. They don't understand that. I don't think they realize what the judge did when she excluded all those deleted calls. How I know so many people was so stuck on the how long to die in snow. That was just like everywhere the sign. It's like it's a meme now. How long to die? You know, it's not before the jury. They won't get to even consider that. They don't get to consider Proctor's horrible messages to other people and HIPAA violations talking about her medical stuff, which is a crime. They don't get to consider any of that. They don't get to consider the text messages from Higgins to John, Higgins to Karen. They don't get to consider any of that. They don't get to consider any and all of the deleted calls and butt dials and all those deleted calls and text messages between each other and the promises of gifts to Trooper Proctor. They don't get to consider any of that. That's why they're not back yet. So that's it. That's all I have to say. I appreciate you share this, and I'm very encouraged to see a lot of people out there, but I'm also very disappointed to see there's no petitions being filed. And I'm also very disappointed to see nobody's talking about the 71 count indictment, federal charges against the Massachusetts state troopers for the very thing that's accused in this case, and that is special treatment, taking care of each other, bribes, promises, or offers of gifts that are inappropriate. And then you have, literally while they're accusing him of them or that, you have charges against the state troopers for taking bribes and offering things. And then those people that are involved are unnamed troopers, and the media lied and said there's only 2 unnamed people. Oh no, you need to go read that. There's text messages between each other saying, give him the golden treatment, give him the golden treatment, take care of my trooper friend. All these unnamed officers and unnamed troopers, we have no idea. Some of those officers could be right there in Canton, because I know one person in Canton is in that scandal, and that's a tow truck driver. And he's half owner of a company, and his first name starts with P, because that's in the document. So you do have people from Canton that are involved in that scandal. And so, yeah. Hey, buddy. Take care of my dog. Please share this. Let other people know and understand what that judge did. And it's just like I said, she's going to block a lot of evidence going to the jury. And while all those people are out there is the perfect time. I'm telling you, if I was out there, I'd have a stack of petitions ready and be going around getting signatures. That's what I'd be doing if I was there. So somebody out there, can you make that happen? Because that's how change is going to come. That's how I know people want it. And God bless every person that's going out there. But please take strategic steps. Please. Because the justice, it's in the laws. And when the laws are not enforced or complied with, then it's not really law, it's just tyranny. So people have to fight for laws to mandate prosecution when the laws are violated. That's what has to be done.